XRP is back in the conversation today, and not in the loud, chaotic way you usually see on social media, but in a quieter, more serious way that tends to matter more over time. When an asset like XRP starts drawing attention without extreme price spikes or dramatic headlines, that's often when something deeper is happening beneath the surface. And that's exactly why today's XRP news is worth slowing down and actually understanding instead of reacting emotionally. Right now, a lot of people are asking the same question: why does XRP keep coming up when the market feels uncertain, when volatility feels controlled, and when hype seems unusually muted? The answer isn't simple, and that's what makes it important. XRP doesn't live in the same narrative lane as most cryptocurrencies. It never really has. While many digital assets are driven almost entirely by speculation and momentum, XRP continues to sit at the intersection of technology, regulation, and real-world financial infrastructure. That intersection is uncomfortable for short-term traders, but it's extremely interesting for long-term observers. And today, more than most days, that difference matters. The crypto market as a whole is going through a phase where attention is fragmented. People are watching interest rates, global liquidity, regulatory updates, and macroeconomic signals all at once. In that kind of environment, assets that rely purely on hype struggle to hold attention. Assets tied to utility and structure, on the other hand, quietly stay relevant. XRP is one of those assets. When people say XRP news today, they often expect a single announcement or a dramatic catalyst. But most of the time, XRP-related developments don't arrive as one explosive event. They arrive as a series of small confirmations, steady signals, and incremental progress that only looks boring if you're not paying attention. One of the biggest things happening today isn't a price move, it's a shift in tone. The way XRP is being discussed is slowly changing. Less speculation, more analysis, less emotion, more context. That alone tells you something about where the conversation is heading. For American audiences especially, context matters. The US market is heavily shaped by regulation, institutional participation, and risk management culture. Assets that can't eventually fit into that framework tend to remain on the fringe. XRP, for better or worse, has been forced to engage with that framework head on. That experience has shaped how XRP is viewed today. It's no longer just another crypto, it's a case study, a test, a reference point for how digital assets might coexist with traditional financial systems rather than trying to overthrow them overnight. And that's why today's XRP news doesn't need to scream to be significant. If you're watching this right now, take a moment and hit the like button. It helps this kind of grounded, non-hype content reach people who are tired of noise. And subscribe if you want updates that focus on understanding instead of panic. Now let's talk about what's actually relevant today. Markets are currently in a phase where liquidity behavior matters more than sentiment. Large players are cautious. Capital is selective. Risk is being evaluated carefully. In that environment, assets that offer efficiency, speed, and reliability don't disappear. They wait. XRP's core value proposition hasn't changed. Fast settlement, low transaction costs, scalability, those aren't exciting buzzwords, but they are essential qualities for financial infrastructure. And infrastructure doesn't move fast. It moves deliberately. Today, XRP continues to be referenced in discussions around cross-border payments, settlement efficiency, and financial modernization. These conversations don't happen on Twitter threads. They happen in meetings, reports, and long-term planning cycles. That's why they rarely show up as breaking news. But absence of noise does not mean absence of progress. Another important aspect of today's XRP narrative is maturity. The crypto market is no longer dominated entirely by newcomers chasing quick gains. Many participants have lived through multiple cycles. They've seen hype rise and collapse. That experience changes how people evaluate assets. Instead of asking what will pump next, more people are asking what actually lasts. And XRP naturally enters that conversation, not because it promises fast returns, but because it's still here after years of pressure. That longevity matters. It also explains why price action can feel disconnected from discussion. XRP doesn't need constant movement to stay relevant. Its relevance comes from its role, not its volatility. Today's market conditions reward patience more than aggression. Overtrading gets punished. Emotional decisions get exposed. In that environment, understanding structure becomes more valuable than predicting candles. XRP fits into that structural conversation because it was never designed as a meme, a trend, or a social experiment. It was designed as a tool. Tools don't trend. They either work or they don't. And the fact that XRP continues to function, continue to be referenced, and continue to be discussed at institutional levels tells you that it still works. This doesn't mean price will react immediately. It doesn't mean tomorrow will be dramatic. chaotic, and anyone claiming certainty should be treated with caution. Markets don't reward certainty, they reward adaptability. What today's XRP news really represents is positioning, quiet positioning, strategic positioning, the kind that doesn't generate excitement until much later. For many people, that's frustrating. It feels slow, it feels anticlimactic, but historically, the most impactful shifts in finance rarely feel exciting in real time. They feel boring right up until they aren't. Another thing worth paying attention to today is how XRP is being grouped. It's increasingly discussed alongside infrastructure solutions rather than speculative assets. That classification shift matters because it changes who pays attention and why. Retail traders look for momentum. Institutions look for reliability. Those two groups move very differently. XRP has never been optimized for retail excitement. It's optimized for efficiency, and efficiency doesn't trend, it integrates. Today's news cycle reflects that reality. No fireworks, no panic, just continued presence in conversations that actually shape the future of payments. That's why understanding XRP requires a different mindset. If you watch it expecting daily thrills, you'll miss the point. If you watch it as part of a long-term system, it starts to make more sense. The biggest mistake people make with XRP is judging it by the same standards as purely speculative tokens. They aren't playing the same game. Today is another reminder of that. Markets will keep moving. Narratives will keep shifting. Attention will jump from one story to the next. XRP doesn't need to chase attention. Its relevance is tied to whether the problems it addresses still exist. And they do. Cross-border payments are still slow. Settlement is still expensive. Financial systems are still fragmented. Until those problems are solved, solutions designed to address them will remain part of the conversation. That's what today's XRP news really signals. Not a moment, but continuity. If you're looking for certainty, crypto will disappoint you. If you're looking for understanding, it rewards patience. And today, XRP continues to sit exactly where it has for years. Not in the spotlight, but not forgotten either. Quietly present, quietly relevant. That's not exciting, but it's meaningful. And that continuation is important because XRP's story has never been about a single update or a single day. It's been about endurance in an industry that constantly reinvents itself and often forgets what came before. Today's XRP news sits on top of years of context, and without that context, it's easy to misunderstand what's actually happening. One thing that stands out right now is how calm the environment around XRP feels compared to previous years. There's no frenzy, no extreme optimism, no widespread panic. For many assets, that kind of calm would signal irrelevance. For XRP, it signals something else entirely: normalization. And in finance, normalization is often the stage that comes before integration. When an asset stops being treated as a novelty and starts being treated as infrastructure, the conversation changes. People stop asking what if and start asking how. How does it fit? How does it scale? How does it comply? Those questions don't generate viral headlines, but they shape real decisions. In the US especially, the financial ecosystem is conservative by design. Innovation is allowed, but only after it proves it can survive scrutiny. XRP has been under scrutiny for a long time, longer than most digital assets. That pressure has forced clarity about its structure, its governance, and its intended use. That clarity is part of why XRP continues to show up in serious discussions even when the broader market feels distracted. It's not competing for attention, it's waiting for alignment.